Coal was more than just a black rock in the 19th century. It was the beating heart of the Industrial Revolution. Cities glowed with gas lights, factories rumbled to life, trains and steamships crossed continents and oceans, all powered by coal. This black fuel pushed Britain and much of Europe into a new era. Mines had to go deeper and bigger to keep up with demand. Men, women, and even children were pulled into the pits. Every lump dug from the earth came at a terrible price for those who mined it. Picture a typical 19th century coal mine. On the surface, the mine yard buzzed with noise and people. Winding engines hauled coal and miners up and down. Tall chimneys vented smoke and steam. Rows of workers' cottages huddled nearby. The real work happened beneath the earth, in shafts plunging hundreds of feet. Tunnels sprawled out like tree branches, with main roadways leading into darkness. Wooden beams and stone pillars held up the roof, but never felt safe. Miners carried small oil lamps. The air was thick with dust and coal. Men, animals, and even children worked in this maze, deep below the sunlight. Mining coal was a backbreaking process. It began with cutting. Miners lay on their sides or knees, swinging heavy picks into the coal face. Sometimes they worked in seams less than 3 feet high, barely enough space to move. Sweat and dust stuck to their skin. It was slow, miserable work. Next came blasting. Holes were drilled into the coal with hand tools. Miners packed them with gunpowder or later dynamite. After warning shouts, the charge was set off. The explosion shook the tunnels, loosening tons of coal. The shock often filled the air with choking dust. Sometimes it triggered roof collapses or released deadly gases. After blasting, another team scrambled to set timber, propping up the roof with wooden beams or stone. If they moved too slowly, the ceiling could cave in, burying everything. Only then could hewers and laborers load the coal into wagons or baskets, using shovels and bare hands. These were hauled out by ponies or by children crawling along tracks. Every step was dangerous. Every moment was hard. The process repeated, day after day, deepening the mine and pushing miners to their limits. Air was as precious as coal underground. Mines were full of dangerous gases: black damp, carbon dioxide; white damp, carbon monoxide; and worst of all, fire damp, methane. Without fresh air, miners would suffocate or be poisoned. Ventilation was a matter of life and death. Large mines built air shafts and used huge fans or fires to draw air through the tunnels. But in smaller or older mines, the job fell to children, trappers, who sat for hours in the dark, opening and closing heavy doors to direct the airflow. Their lives were lonely and cold. Some were as young as 5 or 6. If ventilation failed, gases built up. Even the smallest spark could ignite fire damp, causing deadly explosions. The air was never clean. Dust filled miners' lungs, making it hard to breathe. Sometimes canaries or mice were kept in cages to warn of danger. If they died, it meant gas was present. Every breath underground was a risk. For children especially, the mine was a world of darkness, boredom, and silent fear. Explosions haunted every mining family. Fire damp, methane gas, was the greatest threat. It seeped from the coal seam, invisible and deadly. A careless swing of a pick, a dropped lamp, or even static from clothing could set it off. In a second, tunnels became furnaces. When an explosion erupted, the shockwave flattened everything. Roofs collapsed. Fire raced along the galleries. Miners caught in the blast had no chance. Others died from choking smoke or poisonous gases released by the blast. Sometimes rescuers died too, trying to save trapped men. These disasters were, well, tragically common. Entire villages might lose fathers, brothers, and sons in a single day. Newspapers reported the horror. The names of the dead filled columns week after week. Still, the mines never closed for long. Production had to go on. Explosions were the nightmare that miners never escaped. Every shift might be their last. The mine was a place where fear was part of daily life. Coal mining destroyed bodies and minds. The most common illness was what we called black lung. Our lungs just filled up with coal dust. Every breath brought pain, coughing, and a slow suffocation. Many men, well, they couldn't catch their breath, even above ground. There was no cure. Physical injuries, they were constant. Our backs bent from stooping in those low seams. Fingers and hands got crushed by falling rocks. Limbs sometimes were lost in machinery accidents. And children, poor things, they grew deformed from carrying heavy loads too young. Most miners finished their lives hunched, twisted, and scarred. The mental toll was just as great, you know. Darkness and danger bred anxiety. Survivors of disasters suffered nightmares and depression. Families lived with the constant fear of losing their loved ones. Alcoholism was common, as some tried to forget their pain with drink. For miners, every day underground shortened their lives. The price of coal was measured in suffering. Mining was not just a job, it was a trap for whole families. Most mines, you see, were surrounded by these company towns. The mine owner built the houses, the shops, even the school and church. Miners paid rent to the boss. We bought food at the company store, often at higher prices than anywhere else. Wages were paid in tokens or scrip, not real money. These tokens were only good at the company store. Families, well, they couldn't save or leave. If the miner lost his job, he lost his house too. Generations of families lived and died in the same pits. Children followed their fathers to work, never knowing another life. Women and children worked above ground, sorting coal or carrying heavy loads. Some even worked underground as helpers. Poverty was everywhere. Malnutrition, disease, and hopelessness marked every mining street. The company town was a cage. Families were chained to the mine, powerless to escape the black world beneath their feet. Mine owners ruled with an iron fist. They set the hours, often 12 or 14 each day. They fined or fired anyone who spoke out. Unions were banned or crushed by force. Pit bosses enforced discipline underground, sometimes with violence. Disobedience could mean losing your job, your home, and any hope for your family. Owners cared more for profits than people. Safety equipment was rare. When accidents happened, there were few investigations. Widows and children received little help. The law usually took the side of the bosses, not the workers. Strikes were met with police or soldiers. Some owners justified their actions by saying miners were used to hardship. Others simply ignored the suffering. Only later in the century did reformers and unions begin to fight back, demanding better pay, hours, and safety. In the 19th century, miners were little more than tools, used, worn out, and cast aside by those in power. To the outside world, the Industrial Revolution was an age of wonder. Cities grew, machines conquered distance. Life seemed easier, faster, brighter. But beneath the surface, millions lived and died in the darkness of the mines. Their suffering powered the engines of progress. The 19th century coal mine was a hidden world. It was a place of danger where explosions, disease, and fear were part of daily life. Children, animals, and families were trapped in its grip. The owner's profits were built on broken bodies and lost hopes. For those underground, every lump of coal carried the weight of pain and sacrifice. Coal fueled the rise of the modern world, but it did so at a terrible human cost. The black world of the 19th century mine reminds us that progress often comes from places we'd rather forget.